I'm sure you saw this coming, but yeah, considering exactly how I got reintroduced to Terraria, there was absolutely no way I wouldn't try Calamity eventually. For those of you who don't know what Calamity is, it's Terraria's largest content mod, adding 2 new difficulties to the game along with an insane amount of content, including an original class and a full split of the game post-Moonlord. But that's not for quite a while. While this King Slime fight plays, I'll explain what I'm doing for this video. I'm going to be randomly choosing a class to switch to after I beat every boss. I'm playing on Expert Revengeance if you're curious. Don't expect me to go into too much detail with the resource gathering I had to do for each stage progression, since I only recorded the boss fights and I don't want to describe all of it anyway. Instead, I'll be mainly focusing on the weapons and accessories I used for each fight. For King Slime and the 3 subsequent bosses, I used the same loadout of Magiluminescence, Abyssal Amulet, Lightning Boots, Frog Leg, and Yellow Horseshoe Balloon. As for my weapon for King Slime, this playthrough will start off with an introduction to Calamity's new class, Rogue. I went with my first instinct, the Crystalline. Crafted using materials dropped from Calamity's Wolfram enemies, Fallen Stars, and Diamonds. It worked well enough, and despite the Crown Jewel joining the fight and King Slime spawning increasingly strong slimes as he got lower, the fight is over with quickly enough. On to the first Calamity boss of the playthrough, the newly resprited Desert Scourge. It looks amazing now, although somewhat unfortunately, I got melee, and instead of heading into the underground jungle for the Blade of Grass, I decided to fight the Scourge using a Falcon Blade for some reason. Let's see how that turns out. While I finish off the Scourge, I'll explain Rage and Adrenaline, features added by Calamity's Revengeance mode. Simply put, the Rage meter charges if you're close to enemies and can be activated to give a damage boost, while the Adrenaline meter charges if you don't take damage during a boss fight, you lose your charge if you're hit, and activating Adrenaline when the meter's at full boosts your damage by a lot, while getting hit with a fully charged Adrenaline meter reduces incoming damage. Looks like the Desert Scourge is down, so on to the next boss. For the Eye of Cthulhu, I put Wolfram metal scraps from Calamity's Wolfram enemies to good use, crafting the Wolfram armor set, a summoner set with quite an interesting set bonus, as well as the Wolfram controller summon weapon. I also purchased the leather whip from the zoologist because I'm lazy. Despite the eyes, frankly, really cool AI changes added by Calamity, including the new Bountiful Harvest ones, I have something better on my side, and I think it's about time I show you. Next up is another Calamity boss, so it's time to cue the music! Calamity has an early game ranged armor set, but I didn't want to deal with a set bonus, so I opted for Fossil Armor instead. For my choice of ranged weapon, I went with the Coral Cannon for no particular reason. There's no way it's optimal, but I can't be asked to care either way. With Crabulon down, I can put some of its drops to good use for the next fight, including a permanent rage upgrade and the Fungal Clump accessory, which is perfect for the summoner build I'll be using. I also dropped Magiluminescence in favor of Voltaic Jelly, a summoner accessory available once the Desert Scourge goes down, while bringing back my Wolfram armor. The Brain of Cthulhu's very recent AI changes make the fight much more challenging in my opinion, in a good way. Despite this, there was absolutely no way I was going to let myself lose this. Smash cut to the next boss fight, and this one's also in the Crimson, the Perforators. I'm using Calamity's new class, Rogue, once again, and this armor set uses materials from a new Calamity biome, the Sulphurous Sea, which replaces one of the oceans. For a weapon, I picked up a lot of rogue weapons available at this point in progression before settling on the Meteor Fist, crafting using meteorite bars as my primary fire. Even with all the projectiles and worm minions the Perforator hive threw at me, I was ready to leave the Crimson behind for good. Too many Rotten God souls had made their home here, and I had no interest whatsoever in joining them. The death of the Perforators caused the aerolite ore that spawned in Sky Islands to become mineable. After picking up a bunch, I crafted the bundle of horseshoe balloons whose recipe requires aerolite and Calamity, a full set of magic aerospec armor, the trade winds, and the pulse pistol, whose recipe required materials obtained from a certain engineer's laboratory. After shamelessly copying PrismaAce's loadout and crafting a magnet flower, I take my weapons into the underground jungle and proceed to spend the next 10 minutes killing Queen Bee. The weapons held up well, but this was one of two bosses where I somewhat regretted not reforging to menacing. Nevertheless, with Queen Bee and Deerclops down, I set my sights on Skeletron, who proved to be by far the biggest challenge of the run so far. Switching my armor headpiece to the Rogue set, I craft the Turbulence using aerolite bars, bring back the Meteor Fist, and make one more rogue weapon that I'll get to. I start off the fight by almost dying, then begin chipping away at Skeletron's health bar. My damage is solid, especially once I start using the Meteor Fist, but I'm having a lot of trouble dodging the homing skulls as I tend to do with Skeletron, and more concerningly, as the fight progresses, I start having a lot of trouble hitting Skeletron. He basically moves as fast as my Meteor Fist, and straight up faster than the Turbulence's homing projectiles. Despite my solid damage, I don't have a way to deal it consistently, and I start getting worried that I'll lose the damage race. And then, I switch to the weapon that ends up making the difference against Skeletron. With Skeletron down, I have access to the dungeon in the second layer of the Abyss, a Calamity biome found underneath the Sulphurous Sea. However, I skip the Abyss for now as I don't need any of its resources for the melee build I'll be using to take on the Slime God. I once again switch my headpiece, this time to melee, and craft the Broken Biome Blade, a weapon crafted with Hellstone and Aerolite that changes its behavior depending on what biome you attune it to by right-clicking. 2 attunements can be stored at a time and switched between whenever you want to, so I settle on the Desert attunement as my primary fire for its insane single-target DPS, and the Tundra attunement in case I need to fight at a longer range. For accessories, after boots, shield, and the bundle of balloons, I went with the Bloody Wormtooth, a drop from the Perforators that provides defense and melee damage, and the Counterscarf, a dash accessory purchased from the Clothier that doesn't bonk and is therefore better than the Shield of Cthulhu. The Slime God turned out to be a difficult fight for me, killing me once. However, on the run back, I was able to strategically delay my uses of Rage and Adrenaline to cause some havoc. This is the first god I'm facing in Calamity, and it will be far from my last. The Slime God drops a ton of stuff that's going to be immediately useful for the Wall of Flesh. Along with a permanent upgrade to Adrenaline, I get the materials to craft the strongest pre-hard mode armor set in Calamity, specifically the Statagel Ranger set. Since the Bloody Wormtooth is a melee accessory, I drop it for the Rover Drive, a defensive accessory dropped by Wolfram enemies. Finally, for weapons, I use the Slime God drop, the Overloaded Blaster, to clear out the Hungry, and the craftable Gunk Shot to deal damage to the wall. The new Demon Scythe projectiles caught me off guard, and I also died once trying to take the wall down, but if I could beat Trump Circles, there was no way I'd let any wall hold me back for long. While I fight Queen Slime, I'll explain some new things about Calamity for the viewers who don't know. First of all, Calamity reworks the early hard mode ore progression, changing the trigger for the 3 tiers of ore spawning in the world from smashing altars to defeating the Wall of Flesh and the first and second mechanical bosses respectively. Hallowed bars are also only available after all 3 mechs are defeated. This can be bypassed with fishing, but I'm not doing that this run since I want to fight every boss on tier. Secondly, Calamity adds a 3rd hard mode biome alongside the new Crimson and the Hallow, the Astral Infection, caused by a dead star plunging into the earth. It's a dangerous biome, but also immediately useful to me, since materials dropped by a rare enemy in the biome could be used to craft the first rogue armor set of hard mode, Titan Heart Armor. This armor set bonus, along with other benefits, provides knockback immunity, meaning I can drop the Ankh Shield for the fight against Queen Slime. Lastly, this is the first time I'll be using the Rogue class's flagship mechanic, Stealth. Stealth is a meter that builds up when you're wearing a rogue armor set and not attacking, while building up especially fast if you're standing still. Having higher stealth increases rogue damage, though attacking sets stealth to 0. As well, if you attack with a rogue weapon while your stealth bar is full, you perform a stealth strike, which is basically an alternate, much more powerful attack. Deciding to use stealth strikes gives you significantly more firepower per hit at the cost of not being able to attack nearly as often, which is why I haven't been using stealth until now. Now for my build. After Wings, Boots, and Dash, my 4th accessory slot goes to the Amalgamated Brain, an accessory crafted using the Brain of Confusion and the Rotten Brain dropped from the Corruption counterpart to the Perforators, the Hive Mind. I'd recommend everyone use the Amalgamated Brain regardless of what kind of run you're doing. In addition to its damage boost, it provides the ability to dodge attacks once every 90 seconds, or less if it's a weak hit. This was an excellent safety net for me while I was getting used to Calamity, and it even helps me hit harder. The Amalgamated Brain and its upgrades stayed equipped until basically the very end of the game. My last 2 accessory slots went to damage, since I could afford to drop my Ankh Shield. I went with the Rogue Emblem and the Mirage Mirror, the latter of which boosts how fast my stealth meter fills up. Finally, for a weapon, I combined a Desert Scourge drop with materials from Calamity's Sunken Sea, which can be found underneath the Antlion Desert, to create the Wave Skipper. Stealth strikes from the Wave Skipper launch 3 spears instead of the usual 1, and combined with the increased damage from the stealth meter, that made it worth using. While I've been yapping, my past self has been finishing off the Slime God once and for all. On to Calamity's first hard mode boss, tiered for pre-mechs, Cryogen. Before I get to my gear, I'd like to mention Cryogen's lore. Despite being a construct of ice, Cryogen was actually created by the Brimstone Witch, Calamitous. Yarm ordered her to kill her mentor, Permafrost, but she instead imprisoned him to keep him alive, using everything Permafrost taught her to do it. Honestly, this action alone means I'll have no regrets about killing Yarm, but that's for another day. As for my build, Spider Armor is the best summoner set available without fishing right now. The Cool Whip is my obvious choice for the whip, especially since whip stacking is removed in Calamity. I selected the Blade Staff as my minion to keep up with Cryogen's erratic movements, and along with bringing back the Ankh Shield, I went with the Jelly Charged Battery, since the minion slot and Electrified debuff outweighed the higher damage Summoner Emblem would have provided. The fight with Cryogen started off great, even without an arena, and I even managed to drink the right flask for once. However, once Cryogen reached Phase 5 and started derping out, even my Blade Staff was having trouble keeping up. Still, this pattern was pretty easy to dodge, and I used the opportunity to get myself ready for the final phase. Calamitous, I hope you're watching, because I'm about to destroy your 4th greatest creation. Calamity allowing the dash to be bound to a specific key instead of double tapping a direction is by far the best quality of life change the mod has made. I bound the dash to a thumb button on my mouse and never looked back. While I rarely used either dash accessory in vanilla and didn't touch Crystal Assassin Armor, I didn't stop using a dash in Calamity from the Slime God until the very end of the game. Regardless, Cryogen goes down, Permafrost is freed, and Cryonic Ore spawns in the Underground Tundra. I can't mine it without an Adamantite pickaxe, and while I could once again fish for Adamantite, I'm trying to do every boss on tier. After maxing out my health with Life Fruit, which Calamity lets spawn in early hard mode, it's finally time to take on my first mechanical boss, and while I usually go with the Destroyer and the guide lists the twins as the first mech, I decided to be silly and challenge Skeletron Prime. I wasn't recording the first time I fought him, so I went back and fought him again. I am using Mithril gear to make the fight faster, but he wasn't a problem for me the first time, and mech stats get buffed every time one of them goes down anyway, so this is still technically an on-tier fight. For my build, I'm using my beloved mech killer, the Daedalus Stormbull with Ichor arrows. For accessories, I finally remember that Fairy Boots outclass Terraspark Boots in Calamity and require Souls of Light as a result, and after Wings, Shield, Dash, and Dodge, round out my build with a Ranger Emblem for maximum damage. Now, I said in my first Terraria video that some way for the head to attack would be a good expert mode change. Well, just watch. One thing I really like about the Calamity early hard mode progression rework is that it allowed the developers to tier bosses in between the mechs, such as the next boss I'll be fighting, the Aquatic Scourge, tiered after the first mechanical boss. Using Mage, I make a Mithril magic set, craft the Arcane Flower for my last accessory slot, and using 2 pre-hard mode spell tomes and essences dropped from Calamity hard mode enemies, craft the Frigid Flashbolt. As it turns out, this was a mistake, and the Frigid Flashbolt doesn't have nearly enough firepower to take down the Aquatic Scourge quickly. This, combined with the Scourge filling the screen with projectiles the longer the fight went, made this a fight I was going to have to work hard to win. With one worm down, another beckons. For the Destroyer, I return to Rogue, with a certain weapon I'm looking forward to testing out. By combining 4 weapons dropped by Cryogen and another sold by Permafrost, I craft the Kelvin Catalyst, a rogue boomerang with a great matchup into the Destroyer. With Titan Heart Armor as my set of choice, I once again drop the Auk Shield, leaving me with 2 accessory slots for damage. In this case, I went with the Electrician's Glove to power up my stealth strikes, and the Ruin Medallion to reduce the time between stealth strikes. With my build prepared, I set out to give the Souls powering HMO3 a fight worth dying in. I really like the Destroyer's updated movement patterns and the very recent change to its laser attacks. Good stuff. Another mid-mech boss awaits me in the Underworld's Brimstone Crag biome, the Brimstone Elemental. With adamantite, titanium, and now cryonic ore available, I craft a melee set of daedalus armor made using cryonic bars. For weapons, I once again used cryonic bars to craft the Flare Frost Blade and the Star Knight Lance, with a little surprise dropped by the Aquatic Scourge as my sidearm. One mechanical boss remains, and as always for me, it's the twins. The summoner gear I'm using for this fight is similar to my Cryogen build. The differences are my Daedalus armor set, the upgraded boots and dash, the counter scarf being upgraded to the evasion scarf using the early hard mode souls, and my summon being changed to the ancient ice chunk, a very early hard mode summon that can seriously last well into hard mode. If you need any proof of that, just watch this fight. With the mechanical bosses down, Plantera awaits, but not before I take down yet another Calamity boss. Running melee once again, I upgrade my Terra Spark boots into Angel Treads using the Mech Souls, finally dethroning Fairy Boots. The Mech Souls are also used to craft the Mechanical Glove, which takes up my flex slot for this fight. Finally, taking my Broken Biome Blade, the Mech Souls, Pixie Dust, and Starblight Soot from the Astral Infection biome, I craft a slightly less Broken Biome Blade, the only weapon I plan to use for this fight. With 8 attunements to choose from, I end up settling on the Forest attunement for reliable damage at a safe distance, while storing the Tundra attunement once again for group DPS. Manufactured by the Cosmic Engineer Drayden and given power by the Brimstone Witch, the Calamitous clone is here. Once again, Calamitous, I hope you're watching. With nothing left between me and Plantera, I craft a Blood Orange to increase my max health by 25, then notice a certain wing accessory is available for me to craft and jump at the chance. If you know me, you know there's no way I'd ever pass up the Moab. Switching to Ranger, I craft the matching Chlorophyte set, the Super Starshooter, and the Flamethrower. All weapons I know are good against Plantera. However, the star of the fight ends up being a rare drop from the Brimstone Elemental, the Hellborn. Sporting solid single-target DPS, the Hellborn has a unique gimmick where if an enemy touches the gun's barrel while it's firing, the Hellborn gains a massive boost to its damage and fire rate. The Feral Flora was the last boss remaining between me and a massive jump in power, and despite Plantera's new and terrifying attack patterns, there was no way I would go down easily. While I fight Anahita, I'll go over the upgrades I received post-Plantera, because there were a lot. Ectoplasm is now available, so after picking up a bunch, I craft an offensive set of Spectre Armor and the matching wings, which provide bonuses to magic damage and crit chance in Calamity when paired with the armor set. Using Ectoplasm, Ashes of Calamity dropped by the Calamitous clone, and Calamity's 3 essences, I can also now craft Cores of Calamity, which are used in a ton of recipes, and one in particular catches my attention. I can finally craft a shield that will stay equipped until sometime after I've beaten the Moonlord. Taking a Core of Calamity, the Ornate Shield crafted using Cryonic Bars, and the Ankh Shield, Asgard's Valor, is finally in my hands, compressing knockback immunity and an excellent dash that can ram through enemies without taking damage into one accessory slot. This is probably the best hard mode accessory in the entire game, and I won't be taking it off for quite a while. As you've seen, I'm using Mage to take on Leviathan and Anahita. The Arcane Flower returns to my loadout, and with my shield and dash combined into one slot, a second flex slot is freed up for an offensive accessory, and I chose the Sand Shark Tooth Necklace, Calamity's post-Plantera upgrade of the Shark Tooth Necklace. Finally, for my weapon, I craft 2 Calamity Magic Staves. Using living shards dropped by Plantera, I combine the two into the Photosynthesis, which has been thrashing this fight while I've been yapping. The problem with only recording boss fights is that I have nothing to fill the space with when I'm explaining my loadouts. I hope this isn't too boring, and I hope you enjoy my battle with the Siren and the Meatballs. For Astrum Aureus, I return to Summoner and tackle the Pumpkin Moon to gear up, since Summoner finally has some fun tools to play with. Tattered Fairy Wings provide damage and crit bonuses in Calamity while having the best mobility stats out of any wings available right now. Spooky Armor is easily the best summoner set in this stage of the game, and the Necromantic Scroll is a required accessory for the class at this point. After Boots, Wings, Shield, and Dodge, 2 accessory slots remain open, and for the first, I combine a Papyrus Scarab, Pygmy Necklace, Summoner Emblem, and Post-Plantera materials to craft Status's Blessing, giving me 2 minion slots and boosting my minion damage and knockback. For my second slot, another Papyrus Scarab ends up being the best choice. I use the Morning Star as my whip of choice, and for minions, after burning 3 on the Plantation Staff, which I craft with 5 summoned weapons and living shards, I fill the rest of the slots with a Leviathan drop, the Gastric Belcher Staff. Definitely not optimal, but I wanted to use it, and it thrashed Astrum Aureus all the same. While the fight plays in the background, I'm going to brief you guys on my build for Golem because this was honestly the highlight of the run for me. Rogue was the class of choice this time, meaning a lot of gearing up. After farming the post-Plantera Solar Eclipse for a Calamity material called Solar Veil, I craft the Umbraphile Armor Set. For accessories, materials available in the Abyss can be used to upgrade the Mirage Mirror into the Abyssal Mirror, which in addition to the stealth generation buffs, now also counts as a dodge, meaning I can drop the Amalgamated Brain for this fight. This leaves 2 accessory slots open, so the Ruined Medallion makes a return to help me fire stealth strikes as quickly as possible. Finally, since I plan to exclusively use stealth strikes, I purchased the Glove of Precision from Calamity's Bandit NPC. This accessory gives absolutely insane power buffs, and the attack speed reduction doesn't matter to me at all since I'm running a stealth build. Finally, the weapon. As soon as I saw the Bandit was selling it, I didn't care one bit about optimization. I knew I had to use the Monkey Darts. In service of my roleplay as a 030 Dart Monkey, I even downgraded my wings to the Moab. With my adrenaline upgraded once again, I made my way through the temple and turned my attention toward teaching Golem's head exactly what it means to be popped. With Golem popped, there's a ton of resources to gather which I of course didn't record but are nevertheless very important. With a Picksaw, I can finally mine Scoria ore found in the 2nd and 3rd layers of the Abyss. Scoria bars combined with Cryonic bars and Perennial bars, crafted with an ore that generated in the underground once Plantera was defeated, to make Life Alloy. Life Alloy is an incredibly important crafting material that's used for a lot of stuff, including the Miracle Fruit, increasing my maximum health by 25 again. For the next 2 bosses, I return to melee, going with Valhalla Knight Armor for the health regen. In retrospect, Beetle Scale Mail was definitely better despite the nerfs, but not by much. Next up are accessories. Scoria bars let me finish off Calamity's recipe for the Fire Gauntlet, which was re-tiered to post-Golem but buffed to compensate. For my last accessory slot, I go with the Bloody Worm Scarf, which combines the previously mentioned Bloody Worm Tooth with the Worm Scarf for increased defense, melee damage, and damage reduction. For weapons, I try out a lot of post-Golem melee options before settling on 2 complementary weapons to use against the next 2 bosses. For Duke Fishron, I exclusively use the Omniblade. Crafted using the Katana, Life Alloy, and Cores of Calamity, the Omniblade does truly absurd close-range damage at the cost of not benefiting from melee speed bonuses. Despite the Duke's updated attack patterns, especially in Phase 3, he didn't really stand a chance. The next boss, on the other hand, absolutely did stand a chance. In fact, she killed me twice. A queen bee infected with a nanomachine plague, the Plague Bringer Goliath. For this boss, I brought out a vanilla classic, the Terrorblade. Despite the Terrorblade being post-Plantera, it's known at this point that it can last well into post-Golem, and it ended up being the best choice for me to clear out the Plaguebringer Goliath's minions and deal reliable damage at range. I still used the Omniblade when I had the opportunity to hit her up close, and it dealt insane damage when given the chance. But all in all, it was the Terrorblade that was getting the job done. This boss killed me twice, but I was more prepared than ever. You didn't think a little bug was gonna stop me, did ya? I'll be showing a graphic for my build here since I want to show the next fight in its entirety. Mage is the class of choice here, and I return to offensive Spectre armor. As always, the Arcane Flower takes up one of the 2 flex accessory slots, but with the Scoria Bars and Ashes of Calamity, I upgrade the Celestial Emblem into the Sigil of Calamitous, providing all the benefits of the Celestial Emblem while also increasing max mana and decreasing mana usage. As for my weapon, I combine materials from Drayden Labs, infected armor plating dropped by the Plaguebringer Goliath, and life alloy to create a very special magic weapon. Empress of Light, I cast Bullet. With the Empress down, Summoner is now in a position to absolutely pop off, and I waste no time showing its strength against the Ravager. Using Bee Armor, Flower Boots, Plague Cell Canisters dropped by post-Golem jungle enemies, and infected armor plating, I craft the Plaguebringer Armor Set, the most powerful Summoner set in all of hard mode. For accessories, Status's Blessing makes a return, and for the second flex slot, I combine the previously mentioned Jelly Charged Battery, the Nuclear Fuel Rod obtained after killing the Aquatic Scourge, the Starbuster Core obtained after killing Astromorius, and Life Alloy to craft the Star Tainted Generator. This gives me 2 more minion slots to boost my minions' damage, gives them an explosion attack, and lets them apply 3 debuffs. Finally, as you can see, I'm using Terra Prisma as my minion. Calamity adds it to Nighttime Empress's loot table, meaning I can immediately use it alongside the best whip in the game to chop the God of Sacrifice's reincarnation into pieces. With my Rage upgraded using a Ravager drop, I tackle the Lunatic Cultist. Using Ranger for the first time in a while, I craft the Recon Scope for my first flex slot and upgrade the Ranger emblem into the Deadshot Brooch using Cores of Calamity, boosting my damage, crit chance, and projectile velocity. For my armor, I craft the Necro set, then upgrade it using Plague Cell Canisters and Nanites into the Plague Reaper set, the strongest Ranger set in hard mode with a set bonus that works really well with my weapon of choice. For that weapon, I start by using Scoria Bars to craft the Hellborn. After farming the Underground Jungle for an Uzi, I take those 2 weapons, a summoned weapon dropped from the Wall of Flesh, and infected armor plating, combining them to get the Plague Tainted SMG. This gun's alternate fire shoots a swarm of homing plague drones for insane group and single target damage, perfect for taking down the Lunatic Cultist and the Pillars. It didn't matter what the game threw at me. Whether it was the cultists' newly updated patterns, the clones sticking around even after my drones bailed me out and hit the right one, or me having to aim while zooming out with the recon scope or while blinded by my set bonus. I'm on a crash course for Moonlord and nothing's going to slow me down. Well, except for Astrodeus. For this fight, refer to my Ravager build with 2 exceptions. Firstly, Stardust Fragments can be used to upgrade Status's Blessing into Status's Curse, resulting in a 3rd minion slot and giving my minions the ability to apply Shadow Flame, along with the 4 debuffs they were already applying. As well, I elected to not use Terra Prisma for this fight, since for the 3rd time this year, the Stardust Dragon looked like it was in a perfect place to melt Astrodeus into pieces. There's nothing left between me and Moonlord, and Melee will be the class here. For my armor set, I went with Beetle's Scale Mail. For accessories, Beetle Wings provide offensive buffs in Calamity when paired with Beetle Scale Mail, and for my flex slots, I bring back the Fire Gauntlet and add the Celestial Shell. Finally, for weapons, I use Meld Constructs crafted from killer enemies' drops to craft the Entropic Claymore, and Astral Infection materials locked behind Astrodeus to make the Astral Blade. The former's homing projectiles will be useful to hammer Moonlord from a safe position, while the Astral Blade's insane damage at close range makes it a worthy sidearm. It's time to close out the second split of Calamity. This aberrant behemoth will not get a second chance. I'm taking Phobos down right here, right now. Moonlord is down, but Calamity is nowhere near over. There's an entire split of the game left, containing 5 separate tiers of resources and a multitude of bosses. Welcome to Post-Moonlord, otherwise known by the completely useless fandom wiki as Godseeker mode. But first, resource collection that I didn't record! After using the Celestial Onion dropped by the Moonlord to get a 7th accessory slot, as well as mining Luminite and Exodium from the sky, I prepare the rogue build I'm going to use to take down the Dragon Folly. For the first time since pre-hard mode, I'm completely ignoring stealth in favor of blatantly copying PrismaAce's Providence build, using Lunar Kunai crafted from Luminite as our weapon of choice. My armor set is obvious. I craft the Empyrean set using Meld Constructs and Luminite bars. The Empyrean set is the rogue equivalent of the Lunar armor sets, providing me with incredible offensive stats at this point in the game, especially when paired with the Exodus wings. These wings, along with all 4 Lunar wings in Calamity, give a total of a 10% bonus to their class's offensive stats when paired with the respective armor sets. At this point of the game, I finally drop my Angel Treads, since I don't plan to touch the ground often anyway and running speed isn't worth the accessory slot anymore. In their place, I give the community a semi-permanent slot on my loadout. A rare drop from Leviathan and Anahita, the community provides small but noticeable buffs to a lot of different stats, which scale depending on how many bosses you've beaten. Because of this mechanic, the community is basically always suboptimal but almost never bad. Thanks to Celestial Onion, I now have 3 accessory slots to fill, and those 3 accessories will be used to support my Lunar Kunai spam build. The Vampiric Talisman provides a great damage buff in lifesteals and critical hits. The Glove of Recklessness increases attack speed while decreasing power, with the trade being net positive, since a 15% increase to attack speed from 100% is felt a lot more than a 15% decrease from like 200% power, and the Ethereal Extorter piles on the hurt even more, complete with Homing Souls. I trusted Prisma's build, and as always, he didn't let me down. With the damageless Dragon Folly fight complete and my rage fully upgraded, I turned my attention to the Profaned Guardians. I made the mistake of finding them in the underworld with a summoner build, leading to the lag you're seeing now. All I'll say is that after crafting the Stardust armor set and matching wings, I combined the 4 lunar fragments to make galactic singularities, then used them and Luminite bars to upgrade my Terra Prisma into the Elemental Axe. Apart from that, the first 2 flex slots are the same as before, while the Papyrus Scarab turned out to be the best accessory to fill the third. I honestly should have fought them in the Hallow. On a related note, I'm fighting Providence in the Hallow, not for the wings, but so I can have an easier time recording. Since I'm using Mage for the fight, I switched to Nebula gear, re-equipped the Sigil of Calamitous and Arcane Flower, and selected the Destroyer emblem as my choice for the third flex slot. As for the weapon, though I upgrade my photosynthesis into the Elemental Ray and briefly consider using it, I didn't really have a choice. I'm most likely not using the Zenith in this run, so I think it's only fair to give Terraria's second strongest weapon its time in the spotlight. That's right, I'm last prisming the hell out of the Profaned Goddess. Providence took me 2 attempts, but she went down, dropping the best set of wings available until the Devourer of Gods has been defeated, though I won't be using them for a while. On that note, with Providence down, my sights are set squarely on the Nameless Serpent. However, there are 5 bosses to get through and a ton of gear to prepare before I'm even ready to take them on. While this Dragon Folly rerun plays, I'll go over my preparations for the 3 Sentinels. First, I head to the underground jungle and mine Eulabloom ore, which spawns once Providence is defeated. I use the Eulabloom bars to craft the Elderberry, once again giving me 25 max health. I also craft Tarragon armor and the matching wings. While Elysian wings give me better mobility and the lunar armor sets some more firepower, I decided to stick with Tarragon armor throughout the entire split for its superior bulk, especially when paired with Tarragon wings. With my new armor set, I fought Providence again in the Underworld to get her exclusive drop there, the Elysian Aegis. I equip it immediately. This accessory fills the same role as Asgard's Valor, and while I lose some debuff immunities, the dash is much better. Now, for the builds. For 1 Sentinel, I ran Rogue. For a weapon, I took Drayden Lab materials, Luminite, and Eulabloom and crafted the best crowd control option at that point in the game. While for accessories, I brought back the Glove of Precision, used Meld Constructs to upgrade the Ruin Medallion to the Dark Matter Sheath, letting me fire stealth strikes even faster, and closed the build out with the Destroyer emblem. I completely forgot to equip my Abyssal Mirror, but I don't particularly care. For another, I went back to melee. Taking the Solar Eruption and Divine Geodes dropped by Providence, I crafted an insanely powerful flail. The Fire Gauntlet and Celestial Shell made a return here, while I went with the War Banner of the Sun, a rare drop from the Profaned Guardians, for my last slot. I know what I should have used there instead, but again, I don't particularly care. Finally, Summoner makes a return to handle the 3rd Sentinel. I spent 4 minion slots on a post-Providence upgrade to the Stardust Dragon, while using the rest on an insanely inexpensive summon weapon crafted using only Eula Bloom bars. My accessories remained the same. The 3 Sentinels were the first obstacle standing between me and my fight with the Nameless Serpent. I wasn't about to lose to them. Devourer of Gods, I'm coming for you. In case you're wondering, I killed Cygnus first, then Stormweaver, then Ceaseless Void. Regardless, I'm not quite done with Forsaken Archive yet. There's one more boss I need to fight there, and Melee steps up once again. For Poltergast, I complete a moderately complicated crafting tree to make the Defiled Greatsword, which I selected because I don't want to aim. My build is the same as before, except I learned from my mistakes and dropped the Warbanner of the Sun in favor of the Destroyer emblem. In my defense, I think I forgot the Badge of Bravery existed after considering and rejecting it once for Cygnus. Regardless, the Feral Amalgamation has set its sights on me, and my response will be to set the souls contained within it free. With my adrenaline fully upgraded and one boss standing between me and the Devourer, I head to the Sulphurous Sea one final time. I'm going to take this fight against the old Duke as an opportunity to say a couple things. First of all, thank you for watching. This has been perhaps my most ambitious video to date, and I'm glad I could make it. If you enjoyed it, feel free to subscribe or become a member of my channel. For the cost of $5 per month, you get access to some short member exclusive content with every major video on my channel, and that includes this one. But that's enough talking about money. There are 5 bosses left in the game, including the one I'm fighting right now, and I decided not to randomly choose my class for these remaining bosses. Instead, I'm giving every class one last hurrah, starting with Ranger. For armor, defeating Poltergeist dethrones Tarragon as my best armor set. Using 4 different Calamity crafting materials, including Ruinous Souls dropped by Poltergeist, I craft Blood Flare armor and equip it immediately, also finally breaking up my Elysian wings for the best mobility possible. For a weapon, I went with Halley's Inferno, crafted using a rifle scope, materials from the Abyss, and Ruinous Souls. Finally, for accessories, the Recon Scope returns, I equip the Destroyer emblem for more overall firepower than the Deadshot Brooch, and use the Affliction, a Poltergeist drop, on my last slot for some nice miscellaneous stat buffs. Since it's the old Duke, I'm also going to take this time to explain the mage build I'll be using to take on the Devourer of Gods. This is, accessory for accessory, reforge for reforge, item for item, the exact same loadout PrismaAce used in his recent completion of Calamity's newest update in Master Death Hardcore. But it's the best gear possible for this boss, so I don't feel much shame in ripping him off once again, especially since I'll be doing the same for the next 2 bosses. For those who haven't seen Prisma's stream, here's the build. For my armor set, I used drops from Providence and Stormweaver along with Exodium and Nanites to craft the Prismatic armor set, the most powerful magic set available right now. The Devourer 2-shots me no matter what, so I'm going for as much power as possible. In that vein, after Elysian Wings, Aegis, and the Amalgamated Brain, I finally drop the Community. In its place, I take my Sand Shark Tooth necklace, farm the bottom layer of the Abyss for Reaper Teeth, and craft the Reaper Tooth necklace, providing a 15% damage boost, as well as 15 armor penetration. For my 5th accessory slot, I pile on the hurt even more with the Destroyer emblem. To round out my build, the Sigil of Calamitous and Arcane Flower return. Finally, for a weapon, I take my last Prism. Using Divine Geodes from Providence, Ruinous Souls from Poltergeist, and Dark Plasma from Ceaseless Void, I upgrade it to the Dark Spark, which I can say with some confidence is the best weapon in the entire game against the Devourer of Gods. After dying twice to the Devourer, I decided to hit record and see what happened on attempt 3. What happened next is something special. I'd quickly like to mention that my favorite part of this fight is how the Devourer is portrayed throughout it. He starts off the fight confident that the Terrarian stands no chance against him, posturing and attempting to scare the Terrarian off while warning him not to get cocky. However, as the fight progresses, the Devourer begins to realize that the Terrarian isn't scared. He's dodging his attacks. He's dealing damage. He isn't backing down, and the Devourer's life is in danger. Knowing he has to finish this fight quickly before the Terrarian gets strong enough that he doesn't stand a chance, the Devourer retreats to the Distortion to don the armored Raiden mainframe. Well, if the Devourer is going all out, then I only have one thing left to say to him. It's not over yet, kid. With the Devourer of Gods dead, only 3 bosses remained, but some grinding was ahead of me before I could challenge the next boss. First things first, I grinded the event moons and the solar eclipse. They get buffed at this point of the game and each drop an event material that, when combined with Necroplasm from the post-Moonlord dungeon, results in Ascended Spirit Essence, a crafting material used in basically every post-Devourer recipe. With the grinding out of the way, I prepare my build, giving Summoner its last hurrah. Buckle in because this one's gonna be a doozy. Starting with the armor set, Silva armor is the only option here, with phenomenal stats and a simply absurd set bonus. For accessories, I take my Rover Drive from literally pre-boss, and using Cosmolite bars dropped by the Devourer, Ascended Spirit Essence, and Draden Lab materials, upgrade it into the Sponge, arguably the best defensive accessory in the entire game. Elysian Wings are retired here, as Silver Wings provide even better stats while significantly strengthening the already incredible Silver Revive. Using Cosmolite and Spirit Essence, Asgard's Valor combines with my Elysian Aegis to create the Asgardian Aegis, quite solidly the best dash accessory and shield in the entire game. Ascended Spirit Essence is also the final ingredient necessary to upgrade my Amalgamated Brain into the Amalgam, giving me 5% more damage than the Amalgamated Brain and basically nothing else. For my 5th accessory slot, the Star Tainted Generator and Status's Curse can finally combine using Luminite, Galactica Singularities, and Spirit Essence into the Nucleogenesis, providing 4 minion slots and massively increasing their damage. Equipping the strongest summoner accessory in Calamity leaves an accessory slot open, so using Yellow Bloom Bars and Dark Sun Fragments from the Solar Eclipse, I craft the Dark Sun Ring, giving me 2 more minion slots, even more damage, and some defense and life regen on top of that. Finally, I brought back the Reaper Tooth Necklace for as much damage as possible. Lastly, the weapons, and I'm once again taking inspiration from Prisma here. Cosmolite lets me craft the Mirror of Kalandra, the Staff of the Mechworm drops from the Devourer, and I finish off a short crafting tree to make the final piece of the puzzle, the Cosmic Viper Engine, pairing it with Godslayer slugs made using Cosmolite bars. After all of this preparation, I present to you Yaron, Dragon of Rebirth. 2 to go. After thinking about which boss I wanted to do first, I settled on saving the Brimstone Witch for last, meaning Drayden's magnum opus was up next. However, I once again had some grinding to do. After taking a trip to the underground to mine the Auric ore that spawned after I killed Yaron, and crafting the Dragon Fruit to increase my health by 25 one final time, it was time to prepare for the Exomex, and I went rogue one final time. Starting with my weapons for once, my primary fire will be the Seared Pan, crafted using a Calamity Moonlord drop and Auric bars. However, the Seared Pan has a horrible matchup into Thanatos, so I'll need some help with that. To fill that role, I finish off a truly massive upgrade chain, starting with the crystalline I used to take down King Slime at the very beginning of this run, and ending with the Seraphim. For armor, there's really only one choice. Auric Tesla armor is a frustrating crafting recipe, but it was more than worth it. It's just the best armor set before post-game by an unbelievably wide margin. As for accessories, since Seraph Tracers no longer give extra invincibility frames, there's only one real choice for wings: Drew's Wings, dropped by Yaron. Asgardian Aegis stays equipped for my dash, and the Sponge stays glued to my loadout, but Accessory 4 is where I start having to think. Using Dark Sun Fragments once again, I combine my 2 most used rogue accessories into one. The Eclipse Mirror combines the Dark Matter Sheath's stealth conservation and the Abyssal Mirror's dodge with absolutely no drawback, making it the best rogue accessory in Calamity and replacing the Amalgam for this fight. My second rogue accessory goes to the Nanotech. This accessory's complicated recipe is 100% worth it, considering the 15% damage buff it gives and how much it powers up my stealth strikes. The Venerated Locket is another new arrival that takes up my 6th slot, piling on the hurt even more with a damage boost and the copy of my rogue weapons that it summons. Finally, I bring back the community. Radiance was definitely a better choice here, but I forgot it existed at the time. With all of that, the creator of the Codebreaker, the Mechanical Trio, and the Plaguebringer Goliath is finally ready, and I'm ready to fulfill his hope. I'm ready for your best, Drayden. Unfortunately, most of my fight against the Exomex has such an extreme amount of lag that I didn't record it. A bit disappointing, but at least I got to fight them, the fight was amazing, and at least I got to show you the build I adapted for it. Anyway, here's Thanatos. One left. For Calamitous, I knew I had to close it out with my beloved melee. I knew exactly what weapon I had to use to take her down, and it started by combining exoprisms dropped from the Exomex with various crafting materials to make Miracle Matter. I already had 2 of the swords I needed to craft it, and the other 2 weren't hard to obtain. First, using materials from the Brimstone Crag and a Breaker Blade, I crafted the Anarchy Blade. Second, I crafted a Volcano and used Perennial Bars to upgrade it to the Hellkite. Thirdly, I used materials from various water biomes in both Terraria and Calamity to craft the Flood Tide. Fourthly, I combined my Terra Blade, the Hellkite, the Flood Tide, and Yule Bars to make the Terratomir. Finally, I combined the Terratomir, the Entropic Claymore, the Anarchy Blade, the Flare Frost Blade, and Miracle Matter to make my final weapon of the run, the Exo Blade. As for gear, the Auric Tesla armor stays equipped, as do Drew's Wings, the Community, the Asgardian Aegis, and the Sponge. As for the other 3 slots, I start with an accessory dropped by the Exomex, Drayden's Heart. In addition to Insane Bulk, this accessory swaps out Adrenaline for a Nanomachines bar, whose level can't be reduced and which grants health when you activate it. Second, by combining my Fire Gauntlet with Luminite, Galactica Singularities, and Ascended Spirit Essence, I get the Elemental Gauntlet, the strongest melee accessory in Calamity. Finally, I equip the Nebulous Core, a death prevention accessory dropped by the Devourer of Gods that also gives a decent damage bonus. Before I get to the fight, I'd just like to say that playing through Calamity has been an absolute pleasure, and I'm glad I got the chance to explore all 5 classes like this. I've never played Mage or Summoner before, and obviously not Rogue, and this playthrough offered me the opportunity to broaden my horizons, and most importantly, cast Bullet at the Empress of Light. Now there's no way I'd ever be able to make an edit with Stained Brutal Calamity considering its structure, but I think I found something that's going to work. I hope Calamitous has been watching, because I finally reached her, and I'm ready to fight and win. I hope you enjoy the fight. Bye, guys. Terraria Calamity has been defeated. Terraria Calamity has been defeated. Until next time, Calamitous.